School of Real Estate around the state. I'm Rita Santamaria. I'm the owner, founder of Champion School of Real Estate. And so honored and happy today to have two ultimate professionals that I get to interview. And I look so forward to our conversation that we're going to have together today. I've known both of these top producer entrepreneurs to the max for many years. And generally, as you know, I'll take a brand new person in the business, and then I'll have a long-time experienced person, and you can get the difference with how to stay in the business for a long time and then how to get your business going. But this time I wanted to get two broker owner principals that each of them have been in the business for over 3 decades. And we will get so many nuggets of how to be successful. And I'm going to clarify that 3 decades in a minute.
I heard that.
So get out your pen, get out your iPad, get out your laptop, get ready to take great notes. But first of all, let me say thank you for your business all over, not just Texas, but everywhere. Without your business, we don't have one. And a shout out to our president, Kimberly Didelowitz, in the Austin area, and certainly all of our managers. So I started out by saying 3 decades in the business. And I'm really telling a lot of myself here because for me it's been 3 decades plus 5.
Oh, wow.
You got in it first.
I did. But let me tell you about each of these professionals that I am so happy to have here today. Ronnie Matthews has been in this particular Houston region for such a long time. He and his wife, Kathy, dominating the north part of Houston, if not Houston, with RE/MAX Legends for such a long time. And it was just like an amazing journey to see how you have grown your company to be not only so well known in Texas, but all over the USA. And most definitely, I think, was it last year or the year before you got the humanitarian award from HAR?
I think 2 years ago.
2 years ago, which I was there. I was so proud and excited. And we'll talk about that in a minute because I want them to know how important it is to give back to the community. And you do it so much all the time. And then we have wonderful Amy Bernstein with Berstein Realty. And when we talk about giving back to the community, I mean, that's really up there top when I think of Amy. And most definitely the Nancy Owens Foundation for Breast Cancer Research. That luncheon is coming up, I think, next week.
Monday.
This
Monday.
And like, how much money has the foundation brought in?
So we've raised just right at about $2 million.
Wow, that's incredible.
So
she started her company, I keep saying 30 years ago. I know that makes us all sound old, but it's just
true.
An amazing blessing. It's a blessing. But Amy is a working broker, and she's going to talk about that a little bit. She has such a successful office. And if I were to tell all of you that are watching today about their successes, we wouldn't have a chance to get to the interview because the list is huge. All I really am going to say is the Houston Business Journal every year acknowledges the very creme de la creme of companies and agents, and you two are always at the top. At the top.
Thank you.
And I love it when I see that. I'm just so proud because not only do you know the business, but you also are so amazing on the giving side of charity and humanitarians. So let me just ask you to step back for a minute. And how did you get started? And we'll just start with Amy. How did you get started in real estate?
So I was at the University of Texas getting my elementary education degree.
It's a good degree.
And it's a great degree, and I love kids, and that's why I went into it. But I did my student teaching and quickly learned that this probably was not the best career path for me. So I went to real estate school at nights and weekends to get my real estate license. And then I came home to Houston the summer of my junior year and thought I'd do an internship there. And just to make sure that what I was focusing on now was what I really thought I could see myself doing. And I never looked back. I loved it from day one. So.
And I can remember when you actually taught some real estate courses.
Yes.
And I had already opened my school. And I just want you to know, I've never shared this with you. It was like, I want her. I need her. She's such a good teacher.
Oh,
but
thank you.
she
so
grew
much.
this amazing company, Berstein Realty.
Thank you very much. I love teaching. And it's really, I say every day that I'm still applying my education degree to what I do every day, because not only do we try to teach the agents in our office, we try to mentor them and help them, we also teach the clients the process from start to finish. And so it's a lot better for a buyer today, if they're buying their first home, to not be walking in the dark and to know what's expected. So we sit down with every first-time home buyer before they begin their journey buying a home and tell them from start to finish what they can expect along the way. So it makes them a little less anxious during the process.
So I hope you all wrote that down. There's your first nugget. You're teaching all the time. And you're teaching your buyers and your sellers the process.
Yes.
So that they feel more confident and know what's going to happen.
About the market, about what we would do in this situation, and just coaching. We're their real estate broker, but also their coach along the process.
So how did you get started, Ronnie Matthews?
Like so many by default, I actually dropped out of high school, so I didn't go to college. And I was in the construction industry in Houston and had built a successful company in the early 80s. And Kathy and I got married in 85. And the Houston economy was collapsing around everyone, and the construction industry was not the best place to be. So we went from, at 31 years old, being on top of the world, to at suddenly in 1987, when we closed the doors of our company, went from 65 employees to 0.
The best thing that could have ever happened.
Really?
Yep. And so, we looked at each other one day and said, what are we going to do next? And I had actually gotten a real estate license out of high school in those days. You just took a test and no classes or and all of those things. And I had kept it because I always was interested in real estate. And so Kathy and I one day, when October 1987, we decided we were going to close the doors and start over.
Wow.
We decided we'd try real estate. And so January 1st, 1988 is when we started, and we've been very blessed, and it's been very kind to us.
Wow. I
Found
never
your
knew
calling,
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
I've always loved your story and knew your story because I've known you forever. And it's like so common when people walk in the door at our schools, they say, this is where my career is now. And very regularly it's a nurse, or it's a school teacher, or it's an oil and gas person that's gotten laid off. And they say, do you think there's any hope for me? And the answer is absolutely, because it's all about you. It's how successful do you want to be? And there aren't many people, maybe there are more today, that go to college and say, I want a degree in real estate, but not typically.
No.
I mean, as you both know, it's, okay, I'm going to make this career change.
Second career, default
Exactly.
career.
And most
true.
are second careers, third careers, where they're going to take this straight out to retirement. Because like my dad, you can take it all the way to the end. If your faculties are still in place, then you can drive pretty well without scaring people. So can you think back to when maybe you realized, hey, I've got a business that I can depend on, where you felt like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, and you probably don't think in those terms because I don't, but you are the ultimate of entrepreneurs, and you know that. I mean, you're the American dream. Was there a point in time where you felt like, okay, I can relax a little bit. My business is actually strong and good. Has there been that moment?
For me, no. Even to this day, I don't ever feel that way. I feel watching the business change so much every single day that if we don't stay on top of it, we will get rolled over by it. And so just when you start feeling like you have it all down and you can coast a little bit, Number one, we always try to stay in touch with our clients. Just keeping them informed of new things in the market and trying to stay in touch with our clients and thanking them for referring other clients. So we seem like we're always in touch. So we're never just saying, wow, that was easy, now we can coast. But the business is changing so much. I mean, every single day something comes up, or definitely every single year, we're doing things a little bit differently, a little bit faster. We try to be a little bit more efficient just because the way the market is. So we have to stay on top of technology, on top of all our tools. So I don't think that you can ever, when you own a business, especially the real estate business, I don't think you can ever just say,
Just kick back.
that was
and
easy.
go. Okay. How do you feel about that, Ronnie?
I think you can certainly reach a point where financially and personally you can be comfortable. But for your business, you can never get comfortable. It's always changing. And it's Amy was talking about being a teacher, and I started to interject, but teach, but we also learn.
Right.
Because we have to continually learn. And the industry is changing much quicker now than it ever has. I mean, you know, I remember when we started, and I was kind of the first realtor that had a fax. And that was a big thing.
Right.
Fax, when we suddenly could use fax, is to send offers back
Or
and
the
forth.
thermal paper that
paper.
we would put in, and they would just, we didn't have a screen. It would just print and print. And if you put it on your dashboard,
It would melt.
it would go away to get back in your car and go, what was I showing today?
You would have to, you know, with contracts, when finally faxes started getting around in offices, we would fax an offer and negotiate it, but then you had to follow it up with an original, because by the time you got to closing, the original fax wasn't legible.
Right.
It would have disappeared automatically. So, I mean, that was, and just think now faxes are basically gone.
Right.
Although sometimes with wire fraud and some of the email problems now, I think we may see faxes come back to some extent.
I agree.
Just like cashier's checks are coming back for closings now.
Yes.
Compared to, and those are the nuts and bolts. But the technology, I mean, really, it's intimidating, I know for me.
For me too.
And just because the young ones come up and they adapt so quick.
Don't
And
even
it's so tough.
say that, because you two are sitting here and you're talking about how you started in business. You have today the most successful companies in the marketplace. You have changed. You have
Well, we do.
absolutely.
Yep.
And when people say, oh, I hate change and I can't do whatever, these two have obviously gone with the change so consistently that you have to do. And companies so successful today. So it's like from the fax or even the old typewriter paper,
Right.
which I used to have to do all my course applications on a typewriter.
Oh, gosh.
It's going to be in our new school, the north part of town, in a little case so people that have never seen a typewriter.
Right. The evolution of the real estate business.
But look how far you have transitioned with how business has changed. So you're right. I mean, people will say to me, gosh, why don't you just relax? You know, your business is good. I'm like, no, because tomorrow there may be another cycle, and that cycle turns everything upside down again.
Right. Right.
So it's always like hands-on.
Right.
Hands-on.
Can't relax.
Can't relax, and yet you still get to make your own decisions. You get to decide how you're going to deal with those market disruptors.
Right.
And I use that word because it's such a current trendy word, market
That's actually a
disruptors.
great word. I like that word.
It is.
Yes.
So what would you two say are some of the disruptors in our marketplace today?
Well,
Right.
you know, of course, a new company in town, Open Door, that's new in Houston, and they're, you know, direct to the consumer buying. And it's pretty amazing the prices that they are. They're actually giving some really good prices. And as real estate agents, we have to learn how to incorporate and work around companies like that change.
Mhm.
You know, the competition in real estate fees is much more, it's much tougher than it ever has been.
Mhm.
And as far as, you know, as working with buyers historically, you always typically got a normal real estate fee. Now it's very common that people are asking for part of that back and things. too.
Right. Right.
Sellers have always asked for reductions and things that way. And we all set our own fees and we all negotiate them as a business. historically, people that work for very, very low real estate fees went out of business though, because you are a
You can't
business, you have
stay
to
in
have a certain.
business.
You
Right.
can't give away teaching classes. You can't give
Mhm.
away real estate
Yeah,
services
you're out
either.
of business.
But the difference now is these companies are coming in and they're funded huge by Wall Street and investors that are putting billions of dollars into companies. I don't see how it works in the long run for many of them, but they're trading on a different deal. They're working on Wall Street money, not necessarily profits. And it's a shame, but one of the companies that is a disruptor of sorts, Zillow, is a company that's never made a profit in a year. They've never made a profit in a year.
I didn't know
But
that.
yet, as a company, they're worth many billions.
Exactly.
So they're not having to work with what you and I have to work with.
Right.
Or,
Mhm.
if we're not making a
With
profit,
true
we're out of
hard
business.
knowledge.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
We're not worried about our stock price because it's not there. Now, if
Right.
someone wants to come along and give us a couple $100 billion,
Right.
we can make a deal
Right.
probably today. But the
That's a huge
disruption of the
disruptor,
money that's
right.
being pushed into,
Mhm.
that's changing our business. Now, a lot of the technology is great. A lot of the mortgage improvements that are starting to come along finally, as far as onlines and applications doing those things. And, now there's even starting in the beginning stages in Texas of e-notary for closings, which, on the one side, okay, the convenience of,
Mhm.
on the other side, gosh, they're losing the personal touch. I mean,
I agree.
closing is one of the final places that you go to, okay, everybody happy? Are you tickled?
Tie everything
It's a
up.
celebration
Yes. Yeah.
of the buying of their home or selling of their home.
And the opportunity to say, send me referrals.
That's right. And that's when you're there to show I was here from start to finish. For you.
Right. Right.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
It's coming though.
What disruptors do you see?
So I think one of the major disruptors today, especially with the next generation coming up, and all these real estate companies that may not offer all the services, but they're doing things for reduced fee. I think unless you go through the transaction with a real estate broker, that you see everything that we do after we complete the transaction, you say, wow, I don't think I could have really had the experience without my real estate broker. So I think it's one of those things that you appreciate your real estate broker, a good real estate broker that really puts themselves out there and works on your behalf. When the transaction is over at this closing that Ronnie is talking about, and you see all the things they did along the way, from the giving opinions on values, from showing, from negotiating, from financing to inspecting to negotiating repairs, and all the stops along the way. I think then the consumer appreciates, if they've had a great experience, the role that we play. But unfortunately, one of the disruptors today is, I think, not understanding the role we play in advance, and perhaps saying, I think I want to save this amount of money because I don't think that person's going to have a role with me. So unless they understand and appreciate the role, then they may choose not to use a full service real estate company. And then I think the other disruptor is the economy. We go from, we've all been in the business, we've said, 3 decades. So we've seen this up and down and up and down. And it's hard today for people to say, well, I mean, last year my home was worth this, and today my home, what's happening? And they see ads, or they see articles in the paper and thinking the economy's good and everything's good. Why is the real estate market not as strong? And to be honest, it's a very hard explanation, but we see it every day in our market that the real estate market, as it stands right now, is very much a buyer's market. And so sellers struggle and say, why isn't the value there? Or why isn't my home selling? And they see in the paper that things are all-time highs, but it's in specific areas and it's in specific price ranges, and trying to
And
explain that.
statistics can show lots of things.
And a lot of times our statistics are in the rearview mirror. So we may have a great May, and then it starts to slow down in June, and the statistics are just coming out from May to June, but in June we're not seeing those statistics. So a lot of it is just understanding the market, explaining the market, and justifying the articles that come out about the market to people that really aren't in the market day to day.
It's, buyers know what the market is much quicker than sellers.
Yes.
Because they're looking right now. They're in the
They're looking at
immediate.
every neighborhood.
Sellers are thinking about, well, my neighbor last year
Right.
sold for this.
Right.
And actually, most of the time, they don't know what they really sold for. They know what they're asking,
Right.
but
Right.
the sales price could be very different.
Yes.
So it's amazing how frequent that those numbers are, but the buyers know because they're looking right now what their choices are.
Right. It's true.
Sellers don't know.
It's true. And I think one of the last disruptors is there is so much data online. Data is everywhere, especially for the generation that really thrives on just information, data. I mean, there are people, data's at your fingertips. And sometimes some of that data is not correct. So many times I'll have people call and say, we want to sell our home and we see online that it's worth this.
Right.
And that data may not be accurate. So a lot of times I think we're justifying the market to the data. And I think that's a disruptor. Sometimes people know it's almost too much data and not real-time, real-life data.
The information that these two have brought forward, and I hope everybody got the clear picture, is you must be able to explain what's going on in the marketplace. You must be able to explain how different neighborhoods sell differently. You definitely have to do your research and homework to know what particular price ranges are going to sell the best. And if you come in with the idea, oh, I only want to sell multi-million-dollar properties, then you're really going to miss out on a bunch of sales that can get you going more quickly. And you have to stay current with the market. You have to make sure that whatever company you're with, that you have good training and people that give you all of the tools to sit down and have that conversation with the seller.
Right.
On why their house is not selling. And so if you were to give advice to a brand new person starting out in real estate, what would that advice be, Ronnie?
Well, I've been over the years, I've done that many times.
Many
as far as
times.
One, so many people think real estate's fun. I love looking at houses, drive around in a big fancy car, and it's fun, but they don't realize everything that goes on behind it. And so, I've always told people the first advice I give everyone, get up and go to work. Too many real estate agents don't realize that they work for themselves. They can be at any brokerage, but unless they're an employee of, then they work for themselves. They have their own business.
Exactly.
So, and you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan for today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And you got to really get up and go do it. Too many real estate agents don't know what they're going to do tomorrow morning. So they get up late. They kind of play around the house. They take the kids here, there, the dogs, this, and then they use every excuse because they don't have something they have to do that day. When they have to do something, then, okay, that's different.
What would be a have to do that comes to mind
Well,
on a
for
daily
me personally,
basis?
always, I can't work out of the house. I have to get up and go to the office.
Right.
Then, there's too many things that distract me at home. I love our dogs, the refrigerator calls, all of those things, TV. So I have to get up and go to work. That's what I have to do. And then I have, I'm old school. I have a spiral notebook. It's my calendar every day. It's out in my car. Here today, and here was my appointments. 9 o'clock down here.
Perfect.
2 o'clock, I've got to meet a group. And 4 o'clock today, we're going to the ball game and things that way with a group of clients. But
Give me extra tickets.
it's
I'm just kidding.
they're hard to get this year.
I
A lot
know,
harder
I
than they
know,
were
I'm
last year,
teasing.
I can tell you. So, but you have to make a plan and you have to do it. You have to tell people. They can't call you if they don't know you.
Right.
We were always big on marketing ourselves. And the Ronnie and Kathy Mathews and the billboards and the signs and the same picture over and over. We have to have that continuity too. It's when you're marketing yourself, if you're constantly changing your pictures, then people don't recognize who it is.
They get confused.
They get confused. So, over the years, we've played with advertising where, the pictures when Kathy had the huge big hair and I actually had brown hair and had some. And, so we've had advertising we did where we made fun of ourselves as far as the hair has changed, but the service hasn't.
That's reminding them.
But you have to spend money on your business. You have to market yourself always. You have to let people know that you're in real estate and that's what you do. Can I help you? Can I help your friends? Can I help? And Amy mentioned earlier, always stay. Your best place to generate business is your previous clients.
Yes.
If you did a good job.
Yes.
Now if you didn't do a good job, then they're not going to talk to you.
Right.
And unfortunately, there are too many realtors that don't do a good job. And that's where the education, and Rita always is trying to educate all of us. But once you get out in the field, it's different than it is the book too.
Oh, for sure.
And so, you give up a whole lot of your life when you go into real estate because you're at the beck and call. No matter how many years we've been in it,
Right.
we're at the beck and call of the customer. Because if we don't respond, someone else.
Somebody else will take them.
It's true.
So what advice would you give, Amy?
So, I think a lot of people get in the business because it's a field that if you want to get in real estate, you sign up for real estate courses, you get your real estate license, and you get into real estate. It's not like a profession where you have to go to 4 years of a college, and if you didn't get your degree, you can't, you can't just become a lawyer or a doctor. I mean, this is a field where you can get into it easily. Sometimes I think it's a little too easy, actually, to get into the business, but I think it's great for those that want to get into it, can get their real estate license. They come to a school like your school, then they're going to get great training and they're going to get a great jump start before they get into business. But when they join the real estate company, like Ronnie's saying, they do have to have a plan. So they can't just say, well, there's not a employer that expects me to be there at 8:30. There's myself that needs to be there at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning and to have a plan. And I always say that, failure to plan is a plan to fail. Because if you don't have your list of things to do in the morning. Now, before the days of computers, I remember I used to have a little list on the side of my phone. And it had about 5 or 6 things. I can remember all 6 of those things that were on the list.
What were they?
So it was farm, which means to work the area that you are focusing on.
Should have write these down.
It was to call previous clients. It was to call new clients. It was to advertise, which to just work on my advertising. And let me think. Call, advertise. There's 2 more. I'm telling you, I can remember all 6. Follow up, but there were 2 other things. Network and join organizations. That was one, so I'm lacking one, but I'll tell you in a minute what I can find what that was.
Well, I put you on the spot.
No problem. But they were there, and whenever I found myself, calling expired listings. That was the 6. I knew it would come to me. So I would look at any given time if I was slow, and I would look at those 6 things on my phone and say, there is something for me to do every day. And so today, every minute of the day. And so today, I think more than ever, you come in with a plan, and if you're not working with a specific client today, and it was call all listings, because I would try to call all listings at least once a week to give them an update. So if you come in with a plan every day, a part of your plan every day should be how to bring in business. That should be part of your plan every single day. And if you didn't do that day, then you have no business that day. So if you're not out showing or you're not meeting clients to list their home, then you should be trying to get business and look at that list and say, what on this list can I do to generate customers? And so I think more than ever, you have to have a plan. Now, the plan doesn't always go as scheduled. We may have 1, 2, 3 and never even get to 1, 2, 3 because 4, 5, and 6 took precedence.
The phone rang and we're out the door.
And we're out the door.
And it's a good prospect.
But you have to, I totally agree with what Ronnie was saying. My mentor in the real estate business, to the day she passed away, went into that office every single day, and she was dressed, ready to go. She dressed up and she showed up, and she was a success until the day she passed. And it was because she treated it like a job. And so she didn't just lollygag in the morning and take care of her dogs and hang around the house and watch the TV. She would get into that office and dress for success every day, and she was a success. And that's where I learned a lot from.
We have a marketing course for SAE people. Once you get your license, as you know, you have to take 3 courses after that. And that marketing course, we call it Top Producer. And you start out by having to put a business plan together. You have to start out by putting the finances together. How many prospects do I need to meet today in order to have the possibility for a listing? Because in my mind, and in the direction that we go, we tell our students you absolutely have to have a plan, but you also have to have a financial plan. You can't just hope at the end of the year to make whatever, $60,000 or $100,000 or more. You need to have that plan, so that's the first step. And then you have to follow that plan. And I love it that both of you have said, you know that every day you have to start your day as though you're going to your job.
Right.
And don't lollygag around the house. I heard that. I love that word. It's so descriptive because then we get nowhere.
Right. And at the end of the day, you say,
What did I do today?
what did I get
Why
done
did I
today?
get done? Well, why am I in real estate?
Right.
Well, you really weren't in real estate
Right.
Why can't
because
I
you
pay the bills?
didn't.
Right.
Exactly. So teams are popular. Teams are so often the way to go. How do you feel individually about teams in your office? How do you use teams? When do you maybe suggest to an agent that they might think about joining a team or being a team? How do you, that question comes up a lot from our students. They've heard about teams. They think, well, if I go to work for XYZ real estate company, then why am I over here in a team?
Right. So we in our office don't have teams. We have individual agents. Some of those agents may partner with another agent on a specific transaction because they think that perhaps one person's skill set can add value to the other agent's skill set. So together they make a fabulous team, but they're not really marketing themselves as a team. So I really have to pass to Ronnie on that because I know
well,
that.
that's perfect because that is a description of a team.
Right.
In the sense that they say, well, what if my child's sick and I can't go to closing or a listing appointment, or I'm on vacation, what do I do?
Right.
And we say, well, you'll find someone in the office that you partner with.
Right.
And as you also said, maybe I'm really good at the paperwork, but you're really better at being face-to-face with someone.
In our office at Berstein Realty, so I work with 3 assistants. And so, but I am still the person that meets with the client, talks to the client, goes to the listing appointment, negotiates the transaction, shows up at the closing. So, so I have assistants for sure, and I can assure you I wouldn't be sitting here without them, and I probably would not have made it this far without them. They are invaluable to me, but at the end of the day, it's not a team. It's
Individuals.
It's individuals. So Ronnie, I think, is the best person to
I
talk
have
to
a
that.
little experience with that over the years.
Yeah. A huge experience.
It's funny because Kathy and I started in business at the same time. And it was always Ronnie and Kathy Mathews. So we started as a team day one. Didn't know anything about real estate.
Right.
And I recall the first time we wrote a contract, it was an FHA contract. And we went to the top producer in the office and she didn't know how to do it. And said, well, I just leave that blank in the title company for that. Which is scary. But even today, that still happens. But as far as, so we started as a team day one. And we quickly gravitated. We learned that Kathy was much better working with buyers and loved that part of it. And I wasn't too crazy about it. And I was much better at listings and negotiating contracts and going to closings and running the business. So it worked out great. And then we hired an assistant who, our second and third assistants that we hired 27 years ago are still with us today.
Wow.
As far as, or with real estate, now they're owners in the real estate company actually. But when we needed them, what did we need? What were we missing? Where did we need help? Well, we needed someone to be in the office more to answer the phone for the customer because I was out on listings all the time.
Sure.
I was working with buyers. And so we added an office staff. And then we added a second one. One would handle listings and stay in touch with sellers, along with Kathy usually. After I met with them, et cetera, then Kathy would kind of take over the follow-up. And then we had one that handled the pending process. And then as we grew, we added positions where they were needed, as it was needed. We never set out truly to build a team. Of course, we were kind of before teams existed.
It just
Right.
progressed.
We were teams.
You
We were
were,
the first
yeah.
teams.
You
We
were.
were the reason RE/MAX set up different team awards and regular awards because next thing you know, we had 5 or 6 people and others had themselves. Well, in a way, it wasn't fair.
Right.
And we built
Makes all the sense, for sure.
that, and our team, we ended up at 23 was our largest. I never really wanted to own a franchise because I just wanted to do my business. I never wanted to deal with independent contractors, bless you. But so then I finally was forced to, just because of our size and our volume, we bought a RE/MAX franchise. And everyone in our team was always an employee. We had no independent contractors there.
wow.
So the buyer's agents were employees. And after a period of years, then we provided medical insurance and 401k programs and things too for our team, so that we created that longevity. We created a real business with real benefits that people really looked and said it's a career, and they stayed there. So when we sold our company to employees 3 years ago, the average of the 13 that were owners, the average was over 15 years that they'd been with
Wow,
our
that's
company.
fantastic.
In the real estate world, that doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't.
But we did it because we created something, and Kathy and I cared about our people, and that's why we eventually sold it to the company on very, very easy terms, I might add. So,
Wow.
Well, and again, when I started out with your introductions, I said, here is a super successful company, Amy Bernstein Realty, super successful company, RE/MAX Legends, doing business 2 different ways, whatever works for you when you're interviewing. But most definitely, that's very progressive. I mean, brokers generally don't have salaried agents. And then I think what's really interesting is then Ronnie decided, gee, I'm still just going to tear up the market by going into the title business. So tell
I
us
need a new
about
challenge.
Grand title.
My
Yeah, how many
wife says I'm
offices
crazy
do
all the
you
time.
have?
Well, along the way, almost 16 years ago, I partnered up with a guy and we started doing subdivision development. So we had the real estate company, and then we developed subdivisions, and I think we're at 22 subdivisions now that we've developed. Our largest was 760 acres.
Wow.
And we just closed last week on 250 acres for our newest one. It's going to be up on Lake Conroe.
Oh, wow.
And then along the way, a good friend of mine, Mark Basile, that had retired from First American, when he retired, he was state manager. He kept telling me, Ron, you need to start a title business. I don't need a title business. I don't need a title business. And then one day I agreed. And so November 2006, as a matter of fact, we started with 5 employees, 2 offices, 1 in Baytown, and 3 employees in Baytown, and 2 in our office in the Spring area. And now we have 16 offices and 140 employees.
16.
Wow.
And so it's just been a great business.
Impressive as can be.
Totally different world,
Uh-huh.
very regulated, I was shocked when the first reports I started having to send in about how much fax usage, how much this. I mean, our company gets audited. We have 6 underwriters. They audit us twice a year. The Department of Insurance audits us every other year, plus we have to send in audited statements, et cetera. So we get audited about 15 times a year.
Wow.
I am very familiar with audits.
Yeah, well, and it's not any fun.
With all of our
ever.
national state agencies, it isn't, but you just do what you
But
need
it's part
to
of what
do.
you do, and you run a good
Exactly.
business. You run by the rules, and and I enjoy it because it was something different. I tell people the reason I enjoy it so much is that I'm competing against the biggest companies in the world now. Where in the past I was competing with other realtors, and we were very successful. Number 1 RE/MAX team for 18 years in Texas. But now it's a whole different ballgame as far as what I'm dealing with and competing
You
with.
love a challenge.
I like the challenge, and we're actually the largest privately owned title company based in Houston. We're the 7th largest title company in Houston based on transactions.
Wow.
There's 140 something title companies in the city.
And the name of that title company?
Great
again?
American Title Company. So
And I'm
come see
happy
us.
to promote
Amy
both
wanders
of
in the
you.
door every now and then. So
I do.
hopefully we can get her in more.
I do.
So Amy, you are a working broker
Yes.
and you list and sell. And what's so very impressive, many things are impressive, but your competitors, so to speak, love you.
Oh, thank you.
So, and your office is always just very, there's a lot of growth, there's good feelings. How do you do that?
So I am the luckiest broker in town. I mean that with all my heart. I have, Ronnie was saying earlier that many of his, the staff have been with him for a long time. And I feel like Berstein Realty was started in 1985 by myself, but it has matured and grown over the years by the people that work there, both the staff and the agent. So I have a tremendous staff. I absolutely could not do anything that I do
Now,
without them.
I have a tremendous
I know,
staff.
you do, you do. We're both very lucky.
They make me look really good.
I mean,
I'll
we're
tell
both
you.
very lucky, but
We
they're
are. We're all
they're
lucky.
very dedicated and they're very loyal and they're very talented. And they, I rely on them and I take their advice. And I was reading something once about Steve Jobs and he said, hire people smarter than you and you'll be in great shape. And I believe we have done that. And so I feel like they've built the company and I feel like the agents have built the company. So we have many agents that we have, right now we have 60 agents and many of them have been with us 25, 30 years. And I know for a fact that the company would not be what it is without them. So with all of them, the agents, the staff, I mean, we feel like we're one big family. And when the company receives awards, it's for all of us. It's definitely not for me, but it's for the whole group that makes Berstein Realty what it is today.
Well, you
So
both talked about the group, for sure.
I mean, I
You
just
recognize it's a team.
our agents, I think, of course, I think if you're a broker, you should think your agents do a great job. But I think our agents in our office are just tremendous. And the word service is just first and foremost. And we work all areas of Houston in all price ranges. You said earlier about just looking at expensive homes. And I always tell our agents that please don't look at any price range. Because whatever price range, you're building your book of business and you're going to give great service, whether it's one price or another price, the same service should apply. And that happy customer is going to send other customers that will be happy. And that's how the business flourishes. And I'm proud to say that I feel we definitely do that.
We're going to do what I call the lightning round with
All right, let's go.
with just some quick questions from these two experts that our experienced agents as well as our new agents would like to hear. So just a couple of words or statements. And the first one is, how long do you think you need to work in the business from your experience before you start getting referrals where you don't have to work so hard to find people, but they find you? How long would you say? Amy?
I would say you should be able to get referrals starting from day one. And a good customer, doing a great job for a customer, and the customer appreciates what you've done, and even asking for the business, that one customer should be able to send customers to you from day one.
First off, your very first client should always be someone that generates leads going forward. And your people around you. If you've lived a good life and treated people right, then those should be people that immediately you should do it. So if you're in business a year and you don't have any referrals, then there's something wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Self-evaluation and ask people, what am I doing wrong?
You know, little things when people close, we are so engaged with our client. I mean, just talking to them on a daily basis, especially when we're showing clients' homes and going through the process from contract to closing. And so often I think real estate agents make the error in that once it's closed, they move on to the next customer. And if you stay in touch with the customer, perhaps just check on them and
Exactly.
just see how they're doing and take them to lunch or take them to dinner or just telephone call, just staying in touch, because it's hard to go from talking. I mean, I feel the same way. Sometimes I work so closely with my clients and when they close, I'm like, I'm actually going to miss that, right? They don't have a reason to talk to me every day. So staying in touch, I think, is very important.
Now, what about open houses? What do you think about open houses?
Never liked them, but I see kind of a resurgence again going on right now.
There is, absolutely.
There is.
It's the danger of the worrying about the theft in the house and all of those things. I never felt it was a great productive part of my time. But it's funny, I do remember in the early days doing them. I'd do an open house and get nothing. Kathy did an open house and she'd always get a client.
Yes.
She was just better at connecting with people immediately, and I wasn't. So you have to look at the things that you're good at and utilize your time and efforts there. And an open house can be very successful. And of course, it satisfies the seller that you're doing something for them too, which is a lot of it.
I agree with that. And I think especially for new agents. In our office, if I take a listing, a new agent will have the opportunity to go sit on site at that listing on weekend and try and sell that house. So it makes the seller happy, it makes me happy, and it makes the agent happy when they meet the customers coming through the door that either they have an opportunity to sell that home, and if the customer is not a match for that home, then they have the opportunity to meet somebody new. Back to that old adage of you have to meet new people every day. So they've met somebody new. So for a new agent, that's a great thing to do.
It is. We have the app now that tells buyers all the open houses that are in the area, which is so helpful. What about expired listings? How do you feel about expireds, Ronnie?
I couldn't take that rejection personally, as far as, it's one of those, especially when we started, it was always call expired, call expired, call expired.
Right.
And I just can't take, every time I call someone saying, who the hell are you? I hate realtors, say it, et cetera. So I never did that, and we never did that. But I do know people that were very successful, and I know it was on your list of 6 things.
So I love it. And I used to work when I was in high school at a place called Quick Test. And it was one of those market research companies that you probably have gotten while you're having dinner and you hang up on them. And so I am very thick-skinned to the hang up. I know that it takes 10 no's to get 1 yes. And so I'm a huge fan of expired listings. I think that a lot of times if a listing did not sell at the previous agent and you pick it up, A, you're probably going to get it at a more realistic price. And B, you're going to learn everything they didn't like about their previous agent and why they may not hire them back, so that you can make sure to be a little sharper and not make those same errors.
Okay, you two are so absolutely busy. How do you take time off for yourself? Or do you take time off for yourself? And then I'll just put an ad on, how many hours per week do you think you work?
You want to start? You can start. Let me think about it while you're talking.
I love work, so I've always been, that's just what I do. Trips, we take trips when we want to. Maybe we took 3 or 4 this year, but I like trips no longer than 4 days. If I leave a Wednesday afternoon and come back Sunday, that's a perfect. And a lot of times it's wrapped around golf trips and things now, and we take more trips apart nowadays than we did in the past too, because the things I like to do, she likes to do something different. So I think it's great that she goes with some of the ladies and I go with the guys and we have our golf trips.
Sure.
How much I'm working less hours now, actually working, but I'm probably in the 70 hours a week now, where much of my life was 90 and 100.
Right.
So it's just because that's what I do every day.
Can you say that to the camera?
If you're getting into real estate because you think you can control your schedule and because you think you can get by working 20 and 30 hours a week, you won't last in this business.
There you go.
Totally agree. So I'm in the real estate business, not the title business, right? So I'm still in that 80, 90 hour a week category, but it doesn't feel like work. If you enjoy it, it's not, it doesn't really feel like work. And so I may be at dinner and have to step out and take a phone call, which, we're used to that. And so even though the hours are there, if you're enjoying it, it's not. So I always tell people that I feel like I have a day job and a night job. So my day job is doing what I do on a regular basis. But what I find as a challenge is just keeping up with the emails and the texts. And a lot of emails, people want data. So although you can return an email from the field, you can't provide that data that you want to provide from the field. So when I get home at night, and normally at the end of the day, I do like to go relax a little bit, have a dinner with clients or friends, or just to hang out a little bit. And then I start the evening by making sure I return every single email, providing the data that I need to return at night. So there's a lot of hours, but quite frankly, it keeps me out of the clothing stores.
Well, and a perfect answer, return every phone call, every email, every text the same day. Obviously nowadays things are faster and faster and faster, but you can't go to bed at night with a long list of things that were not returned, responded to, etc.
Because you'll get rolled over the next day.
And people expect it, and it's what they deserve too.
Right.
I mean, it's almost the most important thing they have going on. They're buying or selling a home.
Right.
It is.
When we take that job, it's our responsibility to put them as the highest priority and return
In reply.
and there's always some that will drive you crazy because it's always, and there's others that's too much. And I would say to young people now, the phone works for more than just emails and texts.
Right.
You can actually talk on
Pick
it.
up the phone.
And you need to talk to your customers because that's how you make real long-term life.
I agree. I think that's a great point you just brought up.
Well, I know everyone listening is thinking, wow, 2 very successful people, ultimate successful people. And yet it's not easy. I mean, most definitely we know going into this business, if the attitude is, as you mentioned, that, oh, I can be my own boss and I can just do the hours I want around whatever, you won't reach this level. And that was really what I was hoping the takeaway would be today is you both are so successful. You're still very involved in the business. You have all of these nuggets of great things you've done all of your life, and you're still doing it and doing it well. And you take your job so very seriously.
Thank you.
So today, looking back, what advice would you give to your younger self with the experience that we've had?
So I would tell my younger self, can you imagine what that younger self
I know, can I remember that person?
I remember it.
I would tell my younger self to find a niche in the real estate business that you really enjoy. And whether that's what Ronnie was saying earlier, whether that's prospecting for buyers or prospecting for sellers or holding open houses, make sure you do that on a regular basis. But mostly what I would tell myself, and I feel we have done this as a company for sure, is to stay in touch, stay in touch, stay in touch. And this is a relationship business. And so often the world today is all about what Ronnie was saying earlier, emails and texts. And I mean, sometimes I'll say to somebody, did we get a hold of that person? And they'll say, well, I emailed. Well, there is nothing like that good old fashioned pick up the phone and call. They still want to hear your voice. They still want to, and that's, I think, where the best connections really are. And so I would say to my younger self, continue to stay in touch with the client, continue to talk to them, use email and text when needed, but the personal connection is what A, makes the client happy, and B, makes the client
Know that you care.
know that you care, and that's how you really build the relationship so that referrals do come from those previous clients for sure.
Great advice.
So,
Ronnie?
I had written down earlier, care,
yes.
as far as when we're in the real estate industry, Kathy and I, it was all about showing everyone that we cared about them. They were our priority. We put them first. We cared about what was good for them, which wasn't always necessarily in the short term good for us,
Right.
but it was good in the long term for us because it multiplied itself. In my current industry, in the title industry, and making sure that all of my employees know I care about them, as far as, and then from there, taking it on and talking about calling. I started last week as far as my top 10 clients out of every one of our 16 offices. And I'm going through and making phone calls to each one of our top 10 clients
Wow.
out of 16 different offices. And some of those are really,
Wow.
really big producers.
And
Some
how
of them
long
are
did that
smaller.
take you?
Well, I started last week, so I've made 3 offices. And so later today, I'll get a chance to call 5 or 6 people. And
Shows you care.
Are you going to call me?
Sorry, Amy.
He saw you today. That counts.
Got to get in through the doors a little more. So being that, I want to call you. I really did.
He really
No.
wants to call you.
But no, I mean, obviously, we've done a few deals with her. We'd love to do more with her, and she's a great. You like working with good agents because it makes everybody's job so much better. And it's not, over the years, how many times did I hear realtors wanting? Mark Brazil was my good friend I mentioned earlier. When I would go to dinner with him and things that way back when we were First America's biggest customer. And he'd pay for dinner one night and I'd pay the next time. And he told me one time, he said, I've never had a realtor buy me dinner before you. Because the realtors always expect something. What I expect is good service.
Exactly.
And I don't want anyone trying to buy my business because I want to be able to fire them just as quick.
Right. Right.
And if they're not doing, if you're being bought, then you're holding to. So it's a matter of caring about our clients, caring about our employees, caring about our agents. And in your case, teaching and training your agents, which you do, which we did in our office too, as far as one of our assistants was licensed. And they saw so much volume that they learned to be really, really good at what they did. And so the care, I think, starts with care.
Love it. We are just about running out of time. We have about 3 minutes left. When I introduced you, Ronnie, I said you were given the HAR Humanitarian Award 2 years ago. I'll never forget seeing in the newspaper your check for $1 million. Can you tell them what you gave that $1 million
You know,
to or about?
life has been so good to us,
Uh-huh.
and we've always done things
Mhm.
and supported people as we could, and it was more and more as it grew. So at that time, we set up our charitable foundation, and we funded it initially with $1 million, and since then we've added a couple more to that.
Mhm.
And you know, Kathy, when we sold the real estate company, she retired and she loves dogs and dog Lois Lucky Day. So if y'all are out there and looking to donate money, Lois Lucky Day. But that's
Lola's
her
lucky day.
passion.
Mhm.
And so we helped another group set up Lois Lucky Day, and last year they saved over 1,300 dogs
Wow.
off the streets,
Wow.
out of the shelters,
Wow,
got them
that's
healthy and found them
fantastic.
homes.
Mhm.
We're in the process now of buying another transport vehicle because a lot of them go to Wisconsin.
Wow.
But it's important that we take care of and help those that need help, whether it's animals and people.
Agreed.
Children have always been so much of what we contribute to and things that way.
Agreed.
But you know, I want to help people that are trying themselves. We're helping rebuild some vets, 2 military people and 3 kids that their house flooded and they haven't been able to get it completely back. We're doing that now with a contractor. We bought a 4-bedroom mobile home for a few months ago that they had the same thing, and they'd been conned into buying a house they thought, and they really weren't. And it had flooded, and they had 5 kids and living on concrete floors, the sheetrock still cut out.
Wow.
So our group, Lola's Lucky Day group, we went in and Kathy and I bought a home and set it up down in Pearland Farm, and the rest of Lola's got it furnished and built out and things that way. So
That's
you
great.
just,
Very impressive.
it's just one of those things that you do it because you should and because you want to.
That's awesome.
I also mentioned earlier that I can't even begin to imagine the time that you spend with the Nancy Owens Foundation event and how you and your group put that together. How many years ago?
18 years ago.
18?
17 years ago.
17 years
Yeah,
ago.
17 years.
And I want you to know, Champions has been there every
All
single
17 years.
year.
And you know what? You're our first check in the door almost every single year.
Well,
So
that's good.
thank
to
you
know.
very much.
Thank you. But I just wanted our wonderful customers, friends, agents to know not only are they so successful in so many ways, but they are amazing, good examples of giving back to the community. And it's just really something that we should all be so proud of is these two. I know there are many, many more brokers out there that really give a lot as a volunteer and to charity, but I really wanted to just profile both of you today because it's
Well,
very
thank you.
impressive.
Thank
And we
you
know
very
that
much.
Very
you
impressive.
are certainly the first one to step up and help so
Well,
many
always
organizations. and things that way, Rita.
Champions
So, yeah.
is there just about every opportunity that we can be there, knowing that it's a good reason to give because we know it comes back. It always comes back.
Y'all are always there.
Always
When
comes
we
back.
started the Nancy Owens Memorial Foundation, which for those that don't know, it was created in memory of Nancy Owens, who was a very well-known, loved, and respected real estate broker. She was my mentor in the real estate business and lost her battle with breast cancer about 18 years ago. And when a group of her friends and colleagues got together to start the Nancy Owens Memorial Foundation, I made a phone call to Rita, and it was no questions asked, I'm on board. So thank you very much for all
We
of that.
love
We
that
appreciate it
foundation.
very, very
You're
much.
very welcome.
Thank you.
So to remind everyone, November the 13th is the last of our Taking the Lead series. We are so very flattered and happy to have Jeff Banister as our speaker. He was the American Lead Manager of the Year for the Rangers, the winningest coach in Ranger history. He's going to be talking about leadership. He is a leadership guru, how he came from very difficult personal beginnings to be the success that he is today, but mainly his success in coaching others to have such a winning team as the Rangers. But All of these 5 series will be on video at the end of the November 13th Taking the Lead series, and all 5 will be available. So you'll be getting an email about that. So Amy Bernstein, Berstein Realty,
Thank you.
and Ronnie Matthews, Remax Legends, and Great American Title. We are thrilled to have you here today. You are the ultimate of professionalism and success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to just say quickly one thing about Champion School of Real Estate. I think most all our agents are graduates from Champion School of Real
Yes, they
Estate.
are.
I know when people say they want to get in the industry, I say just call Champion School of Real Estate and they will guide you. And I just want to thank you for turning out great agents and for just had a tour of the new office, and it's gorgeous, and I get the chills when I talk about it because it's that beautiful.
You're
And,
getting
and
me chills.
but I think it's so great how progressive you've been through the industry
Thank
and
you.
all of that too. So without licensed agents, we don't have jobs. So thank you for turning out the best.
You're
We
so
appreciate it
welcome.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.